As we prepare to welcome in the new year, we also welcome you back for another edition of Kansas City Experience. I'm Katherine Hoffman. If a nice piece of pie isn't a New Year's tradition, maybe it should be. We go behind the scenes of the local bakery Upper Crust to see how they're keeping the pie-making tradition alive.
You know, we'd get together every Sunday for Sunday meals or go over to see Grandma and Grandpa, and there was always pie involved. As the family continues to grow in size, Mom started making pies to help.
We want to share that type of experience that we had growing up.
We tackle a curious KC question about the history of Native Americans in Kansas City.
Kansas City's story doesn't begin with European fur traders who overtook native land, but it's often how it's taught. We've seen it in elementary school pamphlets and high school textbooks, even in historical society websites, which is perhaps why this Curious KC question has taken us on this trek through history.
As the cannabis industry continues to expand in Missouri, we share a report on how something called Delta-8 THC is impacting the industry and what consumers need to know.
The main cannabinoids that we care about are Delta-9 THC, which is traditional marijuana getting stoned, CBD, which has been the basis of the hemp movement, and then now we're moving into just a wider range of cannabinoid products.
Frog Pond recently released their first album in 20 years and stopped by for a 90.9 The Bridge in-studio performance. We drop in to hear the track, It's Not Over. But first up this month, we meet a local entrepreneur who hasn't let a cancer diagnosis stand in his way of success.
I was a skateboarder for a long time. I beat my body up. I was used to aches and pains. For a while, I'd been having a weird little twinge in my right knee. Fine, I'll go to a doctor. And I go and I get a standard checkup. He's like, hey man, the doctor doesn't say hey man. He's, Daniel, I'm gonna need you to come in and sit down with me. And he, at that point, tells me, hey, I sent this off to pathology. It's not what I thought it was. It's actually a tumor. You never expect any kind of, cancer diagnosis. In my knee, it was called a leiomyosarcoma, and to be diagnosed that, especially when you really don't expect it, is just like a really sinking feeling. Like I remember being actually feeling like a drop. There's some things you really can't control, no matter what you do. But you can control how you take it, so I just kept moving, literally. After chasing skateboarding for a long time, I had an injury that kind of sidelined me, and I needed something to really fight for and give my all to. And I, around that time, just rekindled a childhood love for professional wrestling.
Donnie knows what. Look at that! Understandable.
Journey Pro is my professional wrestling company, and yes, I mean crazy, over-the-top performers, professional wrestling. We've done 19 live circus events, is what I would call them.
Oh my God, Moonshine has Darian elevated. Gory bomb to the outside on all the competitors.
Professional wrestling has a notoriously toxic and flat-out gross history. There's a lot of issues with sexism, racism, everything. And we strive really hard for it to be a safe place. And not only that, but a safe place that people can come and truly let go. And that's not traditional in professional wrestling. It's very straightforward, old school, tough guys only, this sort of thing. not at Journey Pro. This crazy thing that I thought was just gonna be like a fun party, and it became something way more. It became a place that people could come and feel safe and do what they felt like was professional wrestling to them.
Shotzi Blackheart!
I had a seizure, a grand mal seizure. I woke up briefly in the ambulance. I have a little bit of like haze of the ambulance, and then really in the hospital, and they're like, hey, there's a golf ball upstairs, bud. They found in my right temporal lobe, golf ball size roughly, tumor, and cut it out 2 days later. I've never done one of these talk into the camera videos, and I'm not gonna lie, it feels kind of weird, but I didn't want you guys to have to look at more gross pictures of my head, and I just wanted to do a different way of telling people that I'm doing okay, and to say thank you to everybody, and to let you know that I'm not going anywhere, that I've got a lot left to do, and that in no time I'll be back to skating and working out, wrestling, Journey Pro, and drinking beer and having the best time ever with everyone.
What's up, guys? It's update time. It's a really good one. So this last week, you might know I had an MRI, and it came back clear. So that's amazing in itself. Unbelievable in itself. 4 in a row with either progress or maintaining, no signs of movement in the tumor, no growth, no nothing. Not only that though, after 19 entire months, when they only gave me 18 flat to live, they're gonna take me off chemo. They think I'm ready. I'm ecstatic.
One day at lunch with my mom, we were at Harry's in the River Market, and I was like, all right, do you think that this is something that's going to take me out earlier than it should? And I'll never forget her response. They do. My mom was super young when she had me. She was 16. We were broke, but I never knew it because she always pointed out the rad parts. Like, hey, we're doing this, this, and this, and this, and this. We don't need to live in that. If there's a negative going on, there's so much positive to see a light on. And that's just, she instilled that in me. People are always like, I don't know how you do it, I don't know how you do it, I don't know how you do it. It's pretty easy when you have the support that I do. Our fans, they have been so amazing and so supportive of my fight. It would be so selfish of me to not give everything I have to Journey because they love it. It's the least that I can do for everything that they do to me.
I believe pie is love sandwiched between buttery crust. It's simple, it's not complicated, it's the way a dessert should be. I'm Jan, and this is my sister.
I'm Elaine.
And we bake pies at the Upper Crust Pie Bakery in Overland Park, Kansas. We're very much all about pies. My grandmother made pies. She probably made pies in her sleep because she did it so effortlessly. She just had this wonderful ability of putting a beautiful pie together with whatever ingredients she had on hand.
We'd get together every Sunday for Sunday meals or go over to see Grandma and Grandpa, and there was always pie involved. As the family continued to grow in size, Mom started making pies to help.
We want to share that type of experience that we had growing up.
That was just the dessert that our family always had. So we thought, let's make some pies, see what happens.
Give it a go. So we started this pie venture in 2005 by baking pies at the Overland Park Farmers Market. We took 100 pies the very first time we did it. We sold out, and then we just did it again and again and again, and now here we are, 2021, and we're still baking pies. Now we bake 500 to 600 pies a week. We make a long list of pies: fruit pies, cream pies, nut pies, oddball pies. We make only pies we like. Therefore, I can always say, I love everything we make. I think pies are an old tradition that does need to be kept alive, and that's part of the reason why we're doing it. Our mother and grandmother set the bar very high in their quality and standard of what a good pie is, and so we have done everything we can to live up to that standard my mother and grandmother made back in the day. There's 4 steps in making a pie: making your pie dough, your filling, your topping, and then putting it all together and pushing it into the oven. Every one of our pies is made by hand from scratch. You need to have quality ingredients. If you use icky ingredients, you'll have an icky pie. So we use butter in our crust, we use real fruit in our filling. We're still peeling our apples, we're still mixing up our own pie dough, we're cracking the eggs and putting it all together, one pie at a time, to make it right. Quality ingredients, I think, make up a quality pie.
You'll taste the difference.
In today's world, it doesn't come together super fast, so therefore maybe it is a dying art because it takes time.
I mean, it's long days, it's sometimes monotonous. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again. But then you have that one customer that comes in and truly from their heart are so thankful and so grateful that they're able to come in and get a pie that reminds them of maybe their grandmothers as well. So that warms the heart. When I see somebody take a bite out of a pie, I love to watch their expression, and especially when they close their eyes and just almost stop. It's like you can't breathe or anything. You're just like stop and savor that flavor, and then you keep going. Because once you have one bite, you can't stop.
I think that's the sign of a good pie. After one bite, and you want to go back in for more. The reward in all this, part of it is just passing on what we grew up with, because we have such fond memories of our mother baking in the kitchen, our grandmother baking in the kitchen. So it's sharing that childhood experience. I think our grandmother would be extremely proud. You finish the day feeling good about the work that you've produced, and it's really great to see beautiful pies coming out, going into boxes and going home with people. It's a great feeling.
Kansas City resides on historically Osage ancestral territory. We even have a name for it in Wajaje in our language, Nishotse. That means like smoky water. Nishotse Tomon is the name for Kansas City.
Kansas City's story doesn't begin with European fur traders who overtook native land, but it's often how it's taught. We've seen it in elementary school pamphlets and high school textbooks, even in historical society websites, which is perhaps why this Curious KC question has taken us on this trek through history. It begins with a group of tribes, one of which was the Osage Nation. That's who we learn about today. They resided mostly near St. Louis, but subgroups would migrate close to the Kansas City area. Plains tribes lived, cultivated, and thrived on the land that is now modern-day KC, drawing on local resources such as bison, deer, and other wild game.
In that area in particular, the relationship to the lands is one of recognizing the land as a relative and then recognizing all the other beings on that land as relatives.
The spiritual and physical connection the Osage had to their land contributed to their strong culture. But this would be disrupted by European colonization and Congress's mission to suppress native tradition and eliminate military resistance. First, in 1819, Congress paid Christian missionaries $10,000 to, quote, unquote, civilize indigenous peoples. And this happened nationwide. In other words, they imposed their own ideas, religion, and customs. Next came a domino effect of policy and a disregard for heritage. The Louisiana Purchase marked the start of westward expansion. But the indigenous peoples never consented to the transaction that would quickly lead to their forced migration. Not to mention, Europeans manipulated and pitted certain tribes against each other. Eastern tribes who'd been displaced already by early settlers sought new land for their people. So, once the land was signed over to the U.S. government, the Osage not only lost their home, but also food resources and the connection to what Beeson II called cosmology.
When you think about Missouri as historically where most of the cultural cosmology was developed, of course that's going to have a devastating effect on the way that they conduct themselves.
But colonization made native peoples strangers in their own lands. Access would be denied in a most violent way.
Osages who crossed back into Missouri after it became a state could be attacked and killed, just for going into their ancestral lands.
The story of Kansas City is the story of the people who inhabited, nurtured, and lived with this land. It's the story of people who still very much exist.
Rich Dunfield. I'm the founder and owner of Native Hemp Company, flagship location, historic downtown Lee Summit. We have increased our sales, gotten to the point where it's 50-50 now, half Delta 8, half CBD. Now to us, Delta 8 is just taking it to another level. So this is our Bubblicious Watermelon Delta 8 infused moon rocks, coated with keef, flower dunked in Delta 8 THC oil for a caviar cannabis experience. The main cannabinoids that we care about are Delta 9 THC, which is traditional marijuana getting stoned, CBD, which has been the basis of the hemp movement, and then now we're moving into just a wider range of cannabinoid products because of prohibition and the legality. So Delta 8 has been known about on science literature for years. But the reason why no one cared about Delta 8 for a long time is that all cannabis was illegal. The dispensaries have paid a lot of money and put a lot of time into selling Delta 9. And they can sell other things too, but it looks like that's where the money is for them. I don't think we're taking any money from them. I think, honestly, we're helping more people be educated about cannabis. So we're a team. And I don't think anyone will ever try Delta 8 and say, I don't want to try Delta 9.
We were selling it from a reputable source that had testing that we looked over, and we made it available to the people that were purchasing it. However, it still wasn't tested by Missouri testing labs. And so one of the things that some people proposed was, okay, if you're going to sell it, we'll go through the Missouri testing labs. But then you would still have so much unregulated product on the market at CBD stores, gas stations. You could pretty much buy it anywhere. And having that out there, having an unregulated source out there and then a regulated source, people really wouldn't know what they were getting.
So when you have hemp and it gets created into CBD oil, it's very easy to then simply do organic chemistry and convert the CBD oil into Delta 8.
True Delta 8 is safe. It's just how you extract it and what they do with it. It is a naturally derived cannabinoid. It's not fake, it's not made in a lab, but you extract it and then you have to chemically get it into the plants and get it into the products that you're going to sell, and that's where you run into problems with it. Sometimes it can be that it's over the legal limit of actual THC that we sell here, and sometimes it can be that it has no Delta 9, no Delta 8. And if we can get to a point where possibly the regulated by the state marijuana producers start to manufacture it, it's a possibility we might be bringing it back. But then, that's probably a little far off. Some states have banned it, some states have put it in the regulated cannabis market, but then that means also not allowing it to be sold outside of that environment.
What you're starting to see here is a separation of the cannabis industry. There's literally no reason Delta 8 THC should be illegal, besides it would be because they don't want the competition. They're trying to get Delta 8 shut down through the scope of that's the wild, wild west, that's untrustworthy. I think that's a little hypocritical because it was 10 years ago they were in the same place. Delta 9 is too strong for a lot of people. CBD sometimes is not strong enough. 9 months now, we've consistently seen that Delta 8 is a perfect in-between. It's very beneficial in the way that it can lower anxiety and lower pain, increase appetite, help you sleep better.
Since it has a less of a psychoactive effect, I think a lot of people really like that.
This is a Delta 8 distillate. This product contains 100% cannabis. There's no cutting agents. This is triple lab tested with liquid chromatography. Every one of these products we've had our part in from the start to the finish. The way it should look, smell, taste. I think cannabis is actually setting the precedent of what you can know about your products when you take them. I think forever back, people will look at Delta 8 and say, that was kind of the catalyst for cannabis being legal for everyone. I think it's a great time in Missouri. If you love cannabis, you can get what you need.